G'day everyone, welcome to the 2024 AFL Grand Final edition of the Rem and Gordo Show. I'm joined by Gordo, how are you?
Yeah, going well, Rem Dog. What an exciting week of football that we have just witnessed.
Oh, I'm looking forward to the Grand Final, Gordo. It's going to be electric. So we'll get into today's agenda, Gordo. What have we got planned today?
Yeah, so first of all, we'll touch on one thing each that we love to see throughout the past week. Then we'll jump into our big calls for the upcoming Grand Final match. We'll go through a bit of a recap of the prelims, just take a bit of a rewind back to the start of the week. And then we'll jump into our preview of the 2024 AFL Grand Final.
I'm looking forward to it. So we'll start off with the things you love to see, Gordo. What's yours?
So my love to see was Chris Fagan last night being announced as the 2024 Coach of the Year. I just thought that he stuck by his game plan all year. The nice slow build-up set the defence. After losing their first 3 games, the pressure was right on after being in that Grand Final in 2023. I just thought his ability to get buy-in from the players and motivate them, I just think he's a great coach and well deserving of the award.
Just touching on that, the resilience shown by the group was massive this year. To come from that far back to a grand final just shows tremendous heart inside the football club and the ability to follow through with instruction. Really good call by you, Gordo. So my love to see was seeing the reaction of both the Sydney and Brisbane people get around each other. I feel like football's a really spiritual game in some respects for both clubs, but the ability to showcase it with the fans and bring them along for the ride, it shows what AFL can mean to so many people. And just seeing everyone get around the coach, or whether it's the best players or everyone inside the football club, I just like the tremendous happiness inside both teams.
Yeah, it was unreal to see. Next of all, we'll go through our big call. So I'm asking you, Rem, what is your big call for the Grand Final 2024?
Yeah, the big call, it's going to go down to the last 5 minutes. I could see this being a 2023 AFL Grand Final similarity. It's going to be neck and neck all game. We'll get into the predictions at the end, but my big call is last 5 minutes, the 5-minute warning. Bring it back, please. That's the big call by me. Last 5 minutes, still don't know.
Well, in a contrasting opinion here, I reckon that we could be in for an extremely one-sided affair. I have a feeling that Sydney have been the dominant team all year, and although they did beat Brisbane, we'll touch on that later, they were beaten by Brisbane, sorry. I just think that Sydney will not be beaten in this game, and I think the margin could be significant.
Yeah, big call that. I can't disagree there. So we'll move on now to the prelim recaps. So we'll start on Friday night. It was Sydney by 36 points over Port Adelaide at the SCG. Really different game to the one on Saturday, Gordo. I just felt it was really one-sided, and you felt like Sydney's tall forward brigade was a big difference in this game, as well as their small forwards and their midfield just powered Port Adelaide basically all game apart from the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think it just showed the huge difference between the quality of players on both sides. You looked at Port's forward line and they looked nowhere near as dangerous as Sydney. Although their midfields probably match up quite well, I just thought that they failed to sort of bring the intensity and the pressure they did last week. It was much more like that very first final against Geelong 4 weeks ago. Yeah,
really good point you make there. Just also banged up from the Hawthorn game. I said last week this could play a factor in it. Unfortunately, it did for them. They just looked a bit fatigued, and I felt like the run and carry game wasn't there. And Sydney's freshness, I thought their ability to get the ball inside 50 from the midfield was a big standout. Centre clearances, but they did get smashed in clearances, Gordo. Their ability to get the contested footy around the ground and be able to make those easy 1-2 passes and then hit up a Marty or hit up McDonald inside the forward 50 just was too much for them. Zerk Thatcher and the other defenders, Aaliyah, just struggled.
Yeah, I thought even Isaac Heaney was one of the best, and he only had 21 disposals. He did kick the 2 goals and 2 really big goals, I thought. But it just seemed like Sydney were in celebration mode, and that's part of the reason why I think that they just can't be beaten this weekend.
Fair call. A couple of standouts I just want to mention also. Errol Goulden was massive as well, I thought. His ability to attack the footy and his pinpoint kicking and handballing alongside Chad Warner and Isaac Heaney, as I said, it's just an amazing midfield they have. And Brodie Grundy to have as your ruckman, it's just a really big step inside the grand final, which is going to hurt Brisbane, not having the big O. So that's one to look out for. But also Papley inside that forward 50, just kicking crucial goals at crucial times, and their ability to just put the foot down was massive. So well done to Sydney. You're through to the grand final. And is there anything else you want to touch on there, Gordo?
No, I just want to mention that it's very well deserved. I thought best team all year. You get 2 home finals. You win them both. They haven't had to do anything really, really hard yet, you feel. So this weekend, I mean, you never know, but I just think they come in absolute favourites.
Yeah, fair call by you. So we'll move on now. So the Geelong versus Brisbane game on Saturday, it was the Lions by 10 points over the Cats. What was your thoughts, Gordo?
Yeah, sad day for all Cats supporters. Unfortunately, listened to the first half on the radio and got to watch that last quarter. Just heartbreaking to see the number of efforts in the last quarter and just not being able to get the job done. And then Brisbane kicked those 2 quick goals at the end to seal the game. I thought that there was some really, really good plays for Geelong. I thought Ollie Henry had a great game.
I thought he was best on for your club.
Yeah, and I mean, Tom Stewart down back too. That run-down tackle, I thought that could have won us the game, honestly. Unfortunate day to be a Geelong supporter, but how exciting for Brisbane. They get to go back to the big dance.
Yeah, another crack at the flag.
That's it, and what a great group of players they are. They just did not lie down and give up. You thought Brisbane had given it their all, and Geelong were just going to come over the top and win that game. But unfortunately, just one centre stoppage, and it all just went wrong. Brisbane kicked a quick goal, and it was game over from there. Stanley's miss in the last 30 seconds, big ruckman injured, no excuse really. But
no, you can't be doing that.
But even if he had kicked that goal, you've only got 30 seconds, and I just think that Brisbane played an amazing last quarter to hold on to that game.
Yeah, you just felt like the wave of momentum with Brisbane in that second half was too much. Geelong with the 25-point lead, you felt like they could have easily gotten to 40 points, but unfortunately in football it can sway so easily, the momentum, and you just felt like when Brisbane kept getting those goals in the third quarter, just chipping away at that lead, it was eventually going to come back to bite Geelong, I thought, and that's what happened. Just some standouts I just want to mention. A huge shout out to Hugh McCluggage, Callum Archie and Cam Rayner. I thought they were my top 3 players on the ground. I thought their class throughout the midfield and going into the forward line was electric. And those 2 last goals by Archie and Rayner, they'll be remembered in Brisbane history. The ability of Rayner on his left foot from 50 metres out to pinpoint that through the goals was just insane accuracy, and in the last 2 minutes of the game to do that, just seriously sensational. And then Archie, that snap around the from a stop out of the centre, and then off one step to be able to snap that from 45 approximately, unreal as well. They're also their ability, their link-up play. It was Richmond-like, I thought, from 2019, 2020. Their ability to get the 1-2 hand passes and split Geelong through the middle or the wings was a real standout for me, I thought. And it was the likes of Starcevic, Zach Bailey, these types of players to be able to get them through that the traffic throughout the midfield and be able to set a target inside 50. So credit to Brisbane there.
Yeah, I just want to go back to the very first quarter. I think Geelong will be ruining their chances quite early on. They gave away a 10-point lead to Brisbane in that first quarter, but felt like they had all of the play.
Yeah.
I thought Myers kind of threatened to take the game away from Brisbane in that second quarter with that amazing setup soccer to Ollie Henry, and then the snap just, I'm not sure how it went through still, but to put themselves 19 points up and then kick the very first goal of the third as well, 25 points.
Yeah, 25.
And then you get two very unfortunate events. You get Dangerfield with the dangerous tackle that leads to a free kick. Brisbane received a goal out of that one. And then Max Holmes with the hamstring as well. Two things that you can't really control, unfortunately, for Geelong. And
you just felt like the momentum swaying when the Holmes got that injury, didn't you?
Yeah, I just think then Brisbane sort of flicked the switch and just attacked the corridor. And that's when they got that sort of run and carry game that you spoke about.
Yeah.
Led from the back with Zorko taking dangerous kicks.
Yeah, Zorko as well, forgot to mention.
I just thought that Brisbane really put the foot down, and that was such a great move by them to sort of trim that 25-point margin before Geelong had a chance to really add to it.
Yeah.
And then to finish it off, Geelong just had so much play in that fourth quarter. I think I read somewhere, maybe on Fox, 65% inside their half of the ground in that last quarter, but they just weren't able to convert. I think they turned over the football too many times. Brisbane's tall marking targets were dominant in the air, and Geelong just refused to compete. Simply that. I think by trying to go faster and faster each time and catch Brisbane offside, they left themselves a little exposed for the rebound when they did turn it over.
Yeah.
I found that their defence wasn't really set and in place, and it relied on key individual efforts like that Stuart chase down tackle to save goals.
Yeah.
Quite surprised Brisbane didn't kick more goals in that last.
Just to touch on that, I thought the Big O injury was influential in the midfield, and to rely on Danaher heavily, it was a credit to Brisbane to get through that match as well, because you would think Stanley would outplay Danaher, but Danaher held his ground, didn't he? And just also, Josh Dunkley's performance on Dangerfield at stages I thought was really good. To be able to not let Dangerfield out on the loose and contain him as best as he could, it was another reason why Brisbane won this game, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that you mentioned Dangerfield as one of your key watchers for that game, and Dunkley held him quite well. I think it was a collective effort from most of the Brisbane team, 100%. And he certainly didn't have the same impact that he usually would have in a big final. Yeah, no,
100% good. I thought Dangerfield was well held, and unfortunately there wasn't enough midfielders that could override Brisbane's wave of momentum, couldn't they? So credit to Brisbane, they got to the grand final again and see what they can do on the big stage. It's a really interesting point to mention though, these hardened finals, is it going to be too much in a granny, or is it the perfect preparation? It's a big question to ask, isn't it?
I think both teams get the equal break. I think Sydney the extra day and probably the easier game out of the two might benefit them. But they're professionals. They've got professional recovery teams helping them out. Physios, massages, anything that they would like to get them prepped and 100% ready for the match. I think it may have an impact on Brisbane, but I think it's very marginal.
So moving on now, so we're going to go to the grand final preview. It's Saturday at 2:30 PM at the MCG. It's Sydney versus Brisbane. So what are your first thoughts, Gordo?
Well, we've touched on it a little bit already, I guess, with the two preliminary finals. I think that Sydney, a very classy team, they've got lots and lots of depth. They have consistent performers each and every week.
Yeah.
Brisbane, I guess, very, very similar. Both teams have a very poor record at the MCG, so it'll be exciting to see how both teams do play.
Yeah.
I believe 3-7 for both teams going into this match. I'm excited for it.
Oh, I am too. I feel like we've got the best two teams of the season, to be honest. I know Brisbane finished 5th, but their massive second half of the season, you would say the informed team, and Sydney was the first half of the season. You get the best two teams in the grand final, and I'm just so looking forward to it. Cannot wait to see what's going to happen. Just like to mention the last time these two teams met, it was Brisbane by 2 points at the Gabba earlier this year. Do you feel like that holds Brisbane just one step closer, or due to the injuries with Sydney that day, do you feel like it's going to be a bit different?
I'm not sure if the past really does come into it. I know I mentioned their win-loss record at the MCG. Obviously, Brisbane hold that slight little edge over the 2 points. But I do think Brisbane, with their small forwards, I think they've got 4 or 5 really, really good quality small forwards that could be dangerous with lots more space. So they do match up quite well against Sydney in this one, especially with their tall forwards versus Sydney's key defenders as well. I think that obviously that big loss of Oscar McInerney may impact it, but as Chris Fagan said during the week in a press conference, Darcy Fort has played in the twos. They reached a prelim final. He's a quality ruck, just missing out because Oscar McInerney is slightly better.
Yeah, no, good call, Gordo. It'll be interesting, that ruck battle. I think Grundy could get on top, and Brisbane are going to have to probably shuffle the way they read the ruck taps, and that could lead into different match play and simulation this week. You never know what Fags has got up his sleeve with the coaching aspect and the tactical elements. But Sydney, from that end, could they read the ball a bit better? They could, maybe, with Grundy getting more ruck taps, potentially. But it will be down to the midfield for me. It will be Heaney, Goulden and Warner against Neil, McCluggage and Dunkley. I feel like that triple trio with those three, whoever wins that battle, is going to go a long way to winning this game.
Yeah, so I think the key players that I've really got highlighted here for both teams, I've got Brodie Grundy, like you mentioned, in the ruck. If he can have a standout game, 20 disposals, win the majority of hitouts and give his midfielders first use, I think Sydney are going to be very successful. On the other hand, I've got here Cam Rayner. In last year's grand final, he collected 11 disposals, had no impact, 0 goals.
Needs a big game.
He does, and we've touched on him before already in this final series, and he did respond.
He responded.
Absolutely, kicking that sealer against Geelong last week. I've got him under my microscope this week. I think that if he has a big game, kicks 3 or 4 goals, Brisbane could be on top here.
Yeah, very good call. Well, my microscope's going to go under Tom Papley. He's a really classy player who can get on top of you and can take the game away from you so easily. It just takes 1 or 2 efforts and goals to be able to sink the momentum to Sydney's way. And if he gets up and about and the crowd's going to go berserk, you just feel like that could be too much for Brisbane. His wave of momentum in that forward line and having those spurts throughout the midfield. I'd also like to mention Will Ashcroft as well in that midfield for Brisbane. If he can replicate what he did against GWS, wow, that will go a long way to winning the game for Brisbane. Just taking the midfield away from Sydney and being able to slice through the midfield and into the forward line, it will be a really key element into Brisbane winning this match as well. But that's where Rowbottom comes into play, that tagging role, James Jordan. The tag's going to be crucial in this game, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Rowbottom averaging 7 tackles per game this year. He's a real key in a grand final where pressure is such a huge element of it. You expect both teams to be above 200 for the first quarter. I think that, like you mentioned, James Jordan, the tag, does he go to Lockie Neal?
Oh, I reckon Dane Zorko. I feel like that run off the half back, I think, is just too crucial. You need to be able to slow that wave of the ball coming into the midfield and forward line. And I think to be able to stop that, it's going to go a long way to Sydney winning. And on the other hand, I think Starcevic is going to play a key role on as Sydney Swans midfielder. So it could be the likes of Goulden or Heaney. You just don't know though, do you?
No, that's it. And it's a great call by you as well. All right, we'll get into our tips for this week. First of all, I want to know who's winning the AFL Grand Final for 2024.
Alright, Gordo, my tip for the 2024 AFL Grand Final is the Brisbane Lions by 23 points. I feel like it's going to be too much, the wave of winning for Sydney, and just the extra preparation at the MCG and that ability to use the extra dimensions. It's just going to be too much for Sydney Swans. They haven't played there since earlier in the year, Sydney, so they don't have that feel of the ground like Brisbane do in this final series. I just think it's going to be too much. This wave of momentum for Chris Fagan, he's going to get his first flag. I can see it happening.
On the other hand here, I'm tipping Sydney to win by approximately 30 points. I'll go with 30 points. I know I mentioned earlier that it could be a larger margin than that, but I think that they'll maintain that 30-point margin throughout the second half.
Excellent, Gordo. We'll move on now to the Gary Ayres medal tip, so the best player for the 2024 AFL Finals Series. And I'm going to start with my tip. I'm going to go with Isaac Heaney from Sydney Swans. I think from starting with Jesse Hogan at the start of the final series was, unfortunately, it didn't go through as Giants didn't progress. Heaney's consistency throughout the finals and to get to the grand final to perform on the big stage was a massive factor in this decision by me. So Gary Ayres medalist for 2024, Isaac Heaney for Remy.
I am on the exact same page here, Remdog. I've got Isaac Heaney to win the best player of the finals of 2024. And that leads into our next tip for your 2024 Norm Smith medalist.
So the 2024 Norm Smith medalist from the Brisbane Lions, I have Will Ashcroft. He's going to back up a big performance as he did against the Giants. He's going to use his run and speed throughout the midfield and his contested handballing and kick it inside 50 a lot of times. I wouldn't be surprised if he had 30 plus possessions on the weekend. So that's for me, Will Ashcroft.
For me, I'd love to go left field and choose a player who I think could have a huge breakout game. But for me, it's going to be the double for Isaac Heaney. He's going to win the best player of the finals and he's going to win the Norm Smith as well.
And a premiership, you reckon?
And a premiership. A well-deserved premiership, I believe.
Excellent, Gordo. I feel like they're two good calls and we'll see what happens. Well, that comes to the end of the show, Gordo. Thank you so much for everyone for watching this year's 2024 edition videos. We've really enjoyed making them every week. I'd like to also thank you, Gordo. What a season it's been.
Yeah, I really appreciate everyone tuning in and engaging with our posts on YouTube. We can't wait to share what's to come with you in season 2025.
Yeah, looking forward to next year. I'm really looking forward to the grand final as well, and may your best team win, and we'll see what happens.
Sounds good.
Thanks, everyone.